And in just the last 5 years, official inflation in Turkey rose 569%. Quite frankly, most people don't yet realize the importance of having a sound money strategy. Meaning a practical plan to protect your wealth, your spending power, and I don't know what a concept, your financial future using physical gold and silver, something that's been done for thousands of years. But what if I showed you the benefit of executing the strategy using a real-time example that is actually unfolding today? This is also an opportunity to see one of those repeatable patterns that I talk about all the time so that you can be in the right place at the right time with the right asset. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is fabulous because I love being able to show you real world current examples of what I talk about in action. Yay. So as a little reminder, okay, back in 2020, I showed you how people in Turkey were selling their homes and cars to buy gold, trying to shield themselves from inflation and geopolitical instability. Now, at the time, official inflation was 10.9%, but it skyrocketed to 85.5% by 2022. And since then, it's slowed to around 38%. Now, that may be a big drop in pace, but it's still awfully high and it's compounding. Some might see that as a sign of hope, but it could also be the calm before the next storm. Because even when inflation slows, and even if prices pull back a little bit, our personal experiences tell the truth. It keeps getting more and more expensive to live your life. And it's happening faster, so in less time. And that's all because of fiat money. And by the way, let me remind you, that is by design. And in just the last 5 years, official inflation in Turkey rose 569%. So what did people do? Well, money rushed into US dollars because that was once seen as a safe haven. But now, as I've been showing you, that is increasingly questioned on the global stage. And as we've talked about in many other videos, if you haven't seen them, go watch them because this is critically important. Now, others, like I showed you, they turn to gold, which is the only financial asset that runs zero counterparty risk. What's counterparty risk? That is the risk that you run when somebody else is holding your assets. You got to count on them giving it back to you. And if they don't, there's your counterparty risk. Now, some turn to stocks, and we'll see that here. We haven't hit that melt-up phase yet, but those can only be cashed out in local currency, which is exactly what's losing value. So let's take a closer look at how these so-called safe haven assets actually performed. Let's start with the US dollar. Here we go. Versus the Turkish lira. Over the last 5 years, the dollar gained about 472%. So yes, it protected some value better than just sitting in liras, but it still didn't keep up with Turkey's 569% inflation. And that doesn't even account for the dollar's own loss of purchasing power. The reality, the lira is just losing value faster, but both currencies are being inflated away. Can you see the problem? Trying to protect a devaluing fiat money with another devaluing fiat currency, it doesn't work. It's like trying to solve a debt problem with too much debt with even more debt. Maybe masks the problem in the short term, but it fails in the end. All right, what about the Turkish stock market? Sure, it's up 812% in nominal terms, meaning in lira terms, but you can only cash out in lira. So in real terms, not so great. Well, and then there is gold. Now, we're talking about the spot gold contract. And hopefully by now you see that when gold rises, it signals a failing currency and a looming crisis. Why? Because gold is the only financial asset proven to protect purchasing power over time because it has the broadest base of buyer. This is not rocket science, it's just logic. And even the manipulated spot contract outperformed both the dollar and Turkish stocks because it was up, 949.66%. But physical gold in your possession, that's freedom. From governments, from banks, from counterparty risk. And in Turkey, quite honestly, gold has been a trusted store of wealth for generations. But in 2022, well, what did the government do? They tried to lure people into depositing their gold in banks by offering interest. But here's the truth. Physical gold and silver doesn't have to pay you interest because you own it outright with no counterparty risk. That interest that they pay you, it's just compensation for the risk that you take by handing over your gold or your cash, because whatever I'm telling you in Turkey is also true here as far as that goes. But when you hand over your cash in a bank, they pay you interest because you're actually loaning them that money. And quite honestly, by design, it's never enough. Here you go. Turkey finance minister to announce gold savings scheme to encourage households to convert their gold holdings into liras. What do they want? They want this gold to come back into the banking system because this will certainly help to broaden the monetary base in terms of Turkish lira. Yeah. And give the government a lot more gold. Now, of course, governments don't really want their citizens to hold protective gold. Why? Because it limits their power to inflate that fiat money away. And that means that central banks and governments are losing control. So the question is, will the people fall for it? Doesn't look like it. But understand that any con game depends on confidence. And as that saying goes, once burned, twice shy. And even headlines read, Turkish gold conversion plan likely to falter on lack of public trust. And the reality is that once trust is lost, it's nearly impossible to get back. And that's why I keep showing you signs of that confidence eroding right here in the U.S. And I believe we are very, very, very close to that breaking point when the visible hyperinflation rears its ugly head. Because in the technical data that I'm looking at, I believe that we've already entered that period where we're going into hyperinflation. It's just not obvious to the public yet. But gold? Well, as stated by Ezra G., a Turkish woman interviewed in 22, gold is a tradition. It grows out of a deep-seated distrust of governments and currencies and has been handed down from generation to generation. They didn't take money, they took gold. And she says, I'm a child of that system. I want the gold where I can touch it and feel it. And I couldn't agree more. And in Turkey, gold accumulation since then has only grown. And they'll do it in any ways. Look at this. Citizens hoard jewelry and coins of this metal as a way to hedge against devaluations and high inflation in the country. That's because gold and silver in any form, I don't care what it is, it's monetary at its base. And importantly, both gold and silver, they are above all central banks and all governments. And as the Turkish government continues to manage the lira and the broader economy into oblivion, it should come as no surprise that Turkish citizens will scramble to circumvent that government in order to get their hands on an asset that will still be valuable next week, next month, and next year. And that, my friends, is why physical gold and silver are the foundation of your and my sound money strategy. Can you see it? The financial system is changing fast. So is the geopolitical landscape. Even the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central banker's central bank, calls gold the only asset with no counterparty or geopolitical risk. It's also a proven inflation hedge and a war chest in times of global uncertainty. What do you think? You think there's any global uncertainty that's happening now? And that's why central banks are buying gold. And frankly, it's why you should too. And look at this. It's at the highest level since they started tracking it. What does that tell you? Who knows more about what they're doing in the currencies than central banks do? But what really excites me is getting to show you the strategy in action. This is a full circle moment. And as a quick reminder, back in 2020, well, what did we do? We talked about how Turkey locals sell their cars and houses to buy gold because they saw the lira collapsing. Can you see the dollar collapsing? That's what inflation is all about. Well, this past Wednesday on May 14th, I was watching Bloomberg, and what pops up? Gold's rally spurs Turkish hoarders to splurge on homes and cars. There you go. Full circle. It is a powerful example of how moves in gold prices can ripple through the real economy and put you in a position to be in the right place at the right time with the right asset. Now, frankly, it is still way too early to convert. Now, I'll let you know when that time comes because I'll do it myself and I'll show you and tell you. But let me show you exactly what I mean, because this chart is straight from the Turkish government. And what does it do? It's a pattern that I've shown you so many times in the past on what happens with real estate. It shows the real estate bubble going up, it's popping, and a potential bottom. Can you see it go all the way down? And then what is this? Look at that cup formation. It is going back up. So I don't think that it's the real bottom because this is a global reset. And so Turkey is just going through their reset, but not fully. Why? Because we're already in the midst of a global financial reset. And this is global, not just in Turkey. And history tells us that they have to get rid of this unpayable debt. And what do? They hyperinflate the currency away. That's how they do it. And that's not yet happened. This is exactly the kind of pattern that we're watching here with any income producing asset. We want to see that cup accumulation pattern, but we also want to understand where we are in this trend cycle. So can you see now how converting fiat into sound money, physical gold and silver, well, that can position you to weather inflation, geopolitical turmoil, everything else. And it's the power of sound money strategy. Look you can just see it in action. And we here at Zang Enterprises, we're here to help guide you every step of the way. And I truly believe if enough people around the world can convert their dying fiat into physical gold and silver and join the sound money movement, one person can't do it alone. But if we can get 3% of the global population into sound money, I think we've got a shot to have a seat at the table and influence the next monetary system. And if I'm part of that, I'm going to be voting for redeemable gold. So let's get together. Let's create a global sound money movement, because I know that together we can make a positive difference in this world and for the future of our children. And until next time, please stay safe out there. Bye-bye. Can you please make sure, if you're not already, to subscribe, to hit that like button, and to leave a comment, and let's have this conversation, because we need to be building this community.